quick thank you to our sponsors for making this podcast possible. They keep this show free to listen to.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Let me tell you, a boundary is not the opposite of connection. When we hold a boundary right, it is one of the most connecting things you can do for your child. Let me repeat that. When holding a boundary right, it is one of the most connecting things you can do for your child. So today we're going to talk about how to actually hold that line kindly, calmly, and without losing your child's trust while you do it. Most of us were taught that boundaries and connection were opposites and that we had to choose one. But I want to show you today that they were never opposites at all. So I'm going to start with a story from myself. With 4 kids, right? Across that many years, I've gotten this wrong in both directions. I've been the strict and the loose, right? No boundaries. Early on, especially with my oldest 2, I was the strict one. I thought a boundary was something you enforced with your voice. That's what my granddaddy and my dad did to me. And so that's what I thought dads did. Or a consequence big enough that they wouldn't try it again. And it worked, sort of, in the sense that they mostly did what I said, right? I remember a night with my oldest, I think he was around 15. I laid down a rule about the curfew, lights out. He pushed back, and I did what I always did. I raised my voice, added a consequence on top of the first one. And here's the point that stands out to me. I made sure that I won. And when I did that, he went quiet. He didn't argue for the rest of the night. Also didn't really look at me. Ignored me. I won the boundary, but I lost the war. I lost the room. Then when I found this work here at Peace and Parenting, I swung the other way for a while. Like, no boundaries, no punishments, no corrections. Particularly with my younger 2. I was so worried about being the dad who ruled through fear that I got soft, right, on the follow through. I'd state a boundary. They'd push. I'd start negotiating right there with them. And let me say, half a boundary is not really a boundary at all. Those kids are smart, right? They can smell the wiggle room across the house. My youngest, who's 17, got very good at finding my soft spot, right? And it took me a lot of time, a lot of coaching, a lot of conversations with Michelle and the team to find the actual middle. Not the strict dad, not the pushover dad, but the middle. The shift for me was realizing a boundary isn't something you do to your kid. It's something you decide about yourself and you hold it in front of them. I'm not trying to force a behavior out of them or make them feel a certain way about it. I'm stating what I will and won't do. And I state that calmly. And then I hold the line, regardless of how they feel about it in that moment. And that's the whole shift. Once I stopped needing my kids to be okay with the boundary right then, I could stay warm inside that. I could stay calm and loving. Kind is how you say it, and firm is that you don't have to change it. And that's true whether your kid is 2 and melting down about a snack, or 17 and testing a curfew, or maybe 25 and still trying to find their footing. The shape of the boundary changes, but the kind and firm underneath doesn't. So I want to reframe a little bit. To start reframing, I want to go back and talk about the mental model that a lot of us have been working from. We picture a dial, right? All the way on one end is strict control, consequences, punishments, rules, fear, enforcement. And all the way at the other end of the dial is gentle, warmth, connection, no real structure. And we think our job is to find the right spot on that dial, sliding back and forth depending on how guilty or fed up we feel that day. But let me shift something for you. Connection and boundary are not on the same dial. They weren't competing for that same spot. A punishment says, I'm going to make something happen to you until you comply. And it's aimed right at your child. It's aimed at their behavior, their compliance, their discomfort. A boundary says, here's what I will do regardless. A boundary, though, let me back up here. A boundary, alternatively, says, here's what I will do, regardless of what you do. That boundary's aimed at me. It's aimed at you, the parent. That's the whole difference. It changes everything about how it lands. Take bedtime for an example, right? Punishment, the punishment side version would sound like, if you're not in bed in 2 minutes, you get no tablet tomorrow. That's a threat aimed at forcing compliance. And it escalates if it doesn't work, right? The boundary version of that would say, hey, honey, it's bedtime. I'm turning the lights off in 5 minutes and I'll come tuck you in either way. See, that's a decision about what the parent is going to do, and it doesn't require the child's agreement to be a true statement. And then here's the part for the connection piece. This is really important to follow up with. Behavior is still communication, even when you're holding a firm line. And when your child pushes on that boundary, that push is not defiance that's meant to be crushed and squashed. It's information. It might mean they're overtired. It might mean they're testing whether you actually will hold it this time. It might mean they need to feel your steadiness more than they need that rule to bend. You can hold the boundary and stay curious about what that pushback is telling you. Those two things were never in conflict. That's what kind and firm actually means. So, when a boundary needs holding, when that child pushes back, what's your first move? Is it A, I fold, I change the boundary to end the conflict? Or B, I escalate, bigger consequences, louder voice, more control, squash their resistance? C, a lot of people also do this. I over-explain, I try to talk to them into agreeing with me. Logic would make sense, right? Or D, I hold the boundary, but I go cold, I go short, and I ice them out, essentially. Which one do you do? This is a hard part of parenting, isn't it? And I think this is normal for parents. I think we try to protect the relationship with our children, and that's what we're responding with. Clara says, I breathe as hard as it is. Good. Good. So every single one of these, we've got all of them right here in the chat. We've discussed all of these. Every single one of these responses comes from love. Folding, escalating, over-explaining, going cold. They're all a parent trying to hold connection and a boundary at the same time, without yet having a way to do both. And so that's what we're trying to build today. So I want to give you some foundational a quick word here on research, because this isn't just peace and parenting. This isn't just our opinion. It's one of the more consistently replicated findings in parenting research. Warm and firm outperforms both strict and permissive. There are decades of parenting style research going back to Diana Baumrind. Her original studies, which were refined by Eleanor Maccabee and John Martin's later model, they all point to the same pattern, that parenting that combines high warmth with high structure, often called authoritative parenting, consistently outperforms both the permissive parenting, which is warm but little structure, or authoritarian parenting, which is structured but little warmth. And it outperforms on measures like self-regulation, resilience, social competence, all those things that we want to build in our children. Structure without warmth breeds compliance or rebellion. Warmth without structure breeds anxiety and poor self-regulation. And it's the combination of the two is what predicts the best outcomes for our children, not one or the other alone. So if you feel like you've had to choose between being warm and being firm, the research says you don't have to choose between them, that the combination is not a compromise between two good things. It's the thing that actually works. So we're going to look at some traps that a boundary quietly turns into something else. It starts with a perfectly good boundary and then quietly turns into something else on its way out of our mouths. And as we look at the traps, we'll talk about what we could do instead, right? So the first one is a boundary that's really a threat. It sounds like this. If you don't stop, I'm taking the iPad for a week. Remember before we said that's not a boundary. That's a punishment, wearing boundaries clothes, because it's aimed at controlling their behavior and it's not stating your behavior. Instead, state what you will do, not what happens to them. So we could say, I'm turning off the screen now. That beats, right? You're losing screen time for a week. I'm turning off the screen now. Number two is the boundaries that you don't actually hold. So it looks like we state a rule and then we quietly change when there's enough pushback. It feels kind in the moment, but what it teaches our children is that every boundary is actually a negotiation. If they push hard enough or long enough, we'll give in. Instead, this is a hard one because it really analyzes ourselves. Only state the boundary when you are fully prepared to hold it. If you're not sure yet, don't say it yet. You could say, let me think about it, right? If you aren't prepared to hold that boundary, don't state it yet. Take a minute, let me think about it. And then there's the lecture loop. We want to logic our way through it, right? Explain your reasoning 3, 4, 5 times, hoping this time they'll agree with you. Your child does not need to agree with a boundary to respect it. Explaining it again and again mostly signals that you need their buy-in in order to move forward. And that's not true either. Instead, we can just give one sentence, one time. It's bedtime. And then we hold that. We don't keep talking. We just hold. The repetition so often undermines a boundary more than it earns cooperation. Number 4 trap, the boundary delivered coldly, right? Enforcing the rule correctly, but with a tight jaw, a clipped voice, irritation leaking out of every part of us. Technically, it's firm, but zero warmth. Instead, think about this. Kind is a tone, not a compromise. You can hold the exact same line with a soft voice and a hand on their back, gently holding them, caressing them. And then the last one is confusing rigid for firm. So that looks like never bending on anything, treating every rule, the important ones, the minor ones, the trivial ones, all of them are non-negotiable. This is the one that tends to breed rebellion, because when nothing flexes, the kids stop being able to tell what actually matters, and then they push against all of it. So instead of confusing rigid for firm, holding tight lines on everything, Pick your real non-negotiables. So the non-negotiables are safety, values, health. Hold those completely. Give genuine flexibility everywhere else. So the firmness that you do use actually means something. That, I think, was the tough part for me. And I will admit, sometimes I still struggle. We're not here just to learn about what doesn't work, right? Let's talk about some things that are practical that you can put into practice. And I want to just give you 3 practices to be able to hold a kind and firm boundary. This isn't theory. This is actual actionable steps here. These are steps I help my clients with, and you can use them right away. You can use them this afternoon. And let me say, none of these require your child's cooperation first. So practice number 1, regulate before you set the boundary. Before you state a boundary, take 1 breath and check yourself. Ask, am I calm right now? Or am I reactive? Am I ready to hold this boundary? A boundary set from frustration lands in their ears as punishment, even when the words are gentle. But the exact same sentence said from a regulated place as parents lands in their ears as leadership. Practice number 2, say it once, then hold. Hold it silently if you have to. State the boundary just 1 time, 1 calm sentence. And then, this is where I know I struggle, stop talking. You don't have to fill the space. You don't have to justify your boundary. You don't have to win the argument. You just have to not move, right? So let's regulate before you set the boundary. Say it once, then hold. And I think this 3rd one really brings in the connection. Validate their feelings about the boundary. Hold the line. You can say, I can see you're really mad that we're leaving the park right now. That makes so much sense. We still have to leave. There's 2 senses of empathy, right? Their feelings are acknowledged, but the boundary didn't move. Didn't move a single inch. So for a quick win, try this week. Think back 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even today, right? Pick 1 boundary that you routinely fold on, whether that's bedtime, screens, store meltdown. And the next time it comes up, use the 2-sentence practice. Validate their feelings, restate the boundary, and then hold it. Stop talking. We can expect, right, pushback to get a little louder from them before it gets quieter. But let me encourage you, that's not this practice that's failing. It's usually a test. That's typical for kids. They get louder before they get softer. And that's the test before it sinks in and becomes expected. So which of these 3 practices do you think you could do this week? Just pick 1. Or which one feels the hardest? Regulating before you set the boundary? Saying it once and stopping? Or staying warm while my child is upset with me? So whatever your place is here, that's your starting point. It's the part that's your nervous system is most resistant to, which is exactly why it's the one that you should practice first. For example, bedtime, and then you hold it. What does that look like? Because for me in my house, it would be constant reminders to get into bed, which gets old and wears on my patients. They may not say anything back, but I don't want to, but they will likely keep messing around and not do whatever the thing is. I hear you, Tiffany. That was kind of like my story with the curfew with my oldest son. They were screwing around and I came in hard. I look back and I think, number 1, I should have regulated. Number 2, they recognized they were being kids. Kids being kids is normal. He and his little brother were goofing around in their room. Number 3, maybe I could have gone in, I could have leaned in and sat with them. I could have even played with them a little bit and connected and Can you imagine? I can't imagine what that would have done had I sat down and played with them for 5 to 10 minutes. Been like, that was fun. All right, guys. Good night. Oh my goodness. My relationship with my son and that was a pivotal moment, I do believe, in my relationship with my son. I would be in a very different place had I done that. Let the silence do the holding for you.
Thank you for joining me on the Peace in Parenting podcast. I'll see you next time. Hey there, Peace in Parenting family. If you love the podcast but wish to enjoy it without interruptions, your wish has come true. Introducing the ad-free version of the Peace in Parenting podcast, available exclusively on Apple Podcast. As a subscriber, you'll get all the heartfelt advice, parenting stories, and actionable tips you love without any ads. For less than the cost of a coffee each month, you will enjoy uninterrupted listening while also supporting our work to help you build stronger connections with your kids. Try it out for free. Simply find Peace in Parenting on Apple Podcasts, click Try Free, and you'll gain immediate access to our ad-free episodes. There's no commitment and you can cancel anytime. So if you're ready for a more peaceful, uninterrupted listening experience, subscribe now. Let's keep focusing on connection without the distractions.